So one of the things that I would love to see, actually, there's a lot of good stories in the room. One of the themes that we had in this innovation track was the conversations that happen. Some of us were very adamant that conferences basically are a bad idea of having these conversations, and that there should be a lot of different ways of sharing. And one of the things that I would love to see, and I'm looking to the UNICEF organizers, is actually to have, we did sort of a methodology called speed geeking. So think speed dating, but knowledge sharing. Just quick little projects that you attend to or listen to in a very short period of time, and they happen at the same time, so you rotate around the room. And I mean, some of these stories are fabulous and great, and they can be, the good, the bad, and the ugly. That isn't the big setting, it's a smaller setting. I don't know whether there's room in the agenda tomorrow, but it may be worthwhile to look at some different ways in which we, as this community, share some of these stories. The wiki is one way. I'm going to push you all to put things up there, but it's not one that a lot of us are likely to go back to. So I'm curious. This is day one. As I often hear or say in conferences that I run, this is the one time. Look around you. This is the one time that all of you are together in this constellation. It won't happen again ever. You're dipping that toe into that river once now. That's it. So we're on day one of this 3-day event. What do you want to see? How do you want to take this further? What's the best ways in which you think to have this conversation, the knowledge sharing? This is your opportunity to sort of shape it a little bit to the extent that the agenda will allow it. Wow, you love all you see. Kind of hard to believe.
Can I just ask
yeah.
how many people here actually produce content?
How many of you produce content? Raise your arms. Raise them high. So I'd say good, more than half. More than half. What was your?
It wasn't so much about for whom, but that what you do is you create the product as opposed to being the person on the technical side who somehow facilitates the distribution or the impact of it. And of those content people, how many of you consider yourselves technologically on the savvy side?
That's about, not very many.
I'm starting a small nonprofit, and I'm a documentary producer. And I think one of the things that I would love to get from these days is a way to balance what I don't have, which is, there's YouTube, there's websites, there's very simple ways of putting something out there. I used to produce for a radio station, so that was an automatic distribution outlet. But now wanting to produce for the web, produce for the audience that you don't know yet, and having access, I think, to people who have innovative ideas about how to put it out there and still get it seen. Because I was in the knowledge sharing track, and one of the presenters showed a pyramid where I think out of all the users that went to his site, only 1% were recurrent active users. So, we can put stuff out there, but if it doesn't get seen or heard or become a part of the message or the awareness, then what's the point? So, I don't know. I think for me, I'd like to see some connecting between the content people and the technical people. So I just assumed everyone was like a techie here.
No. There's somebody else. Go ahead.
To answer your question, I'm a communication director, so I'm one of those senior people in the external relations at the French Development Agency. I know nothing about know nothing about all this stuff. I have people who are more knowledgeable than me, but the question is, I need more a clearer view of what our knowledge communication strategy as a big development agency, major development agency should be. And of course, all that, what is happening, what all those bright MIT guys are doing, we are quite interested to know where we should be putting our money into. And secondly, and how do we disseminate for our clientele? And secondly, another question is whether we should be funding information technology development in the field, as a sector. I mean, it is not a sector. A sector is water, sanitation. A sector is health and education. A sector is agriculture, or is funding the private sector. But information technology is not a subject of funding, or maybe as an experiment, but no big institution is funding that. And from what I hear from all the experiments people are talking about, they are talking about a micro something. The wonderful project of South Africa with 200 villages having access to a lab, a digital window or something. This is wonderful, but it is not. What is the impact? I mean, what is it worth anything when you talk about millions and tens of millions of people, or more, or countries? You know, so I think this Web4Dev. I'm trying to, to answer your question. I'm trying to look at broader things than just micro information, and whether all of that fits into a larger perspective. So if we can, during those 2 days, take from all those very interesting experiments, and have a better global view of what we should be doing as development institutions. I think that would be quite interesting.
And let me just reiterate a point that you made. We are writing the book, right, as we go along here. There is very little. I mean, in my field, the mobile and development, I'm very much struck by the fact that there's absolutely no impact evaluations whatsoever. We have no idea. I mean, we know it's making a difference, and there's lots of things happening, but what and how and to what extent, and absolutely no idea. So we're making it up as we go along here. So looking for the clear answers isn't going to probably get you out of here in 3 days with much takeaways. But taking your point, sort of taking some of these nuggets and connecting some of the content with the technologies, the strategies with the form and the function, and starting to look at, all right, what actually works and what doesn't. Even just from the stories in this room, I think, maybe a good start. But you had a couple of you, many of you. 3 of you. How about 1, 2, 3, and then we'll wrap it up, because there is cold beers waiting, so I hear.
All right. I'd like to just react to the last 2 persons who spoke, because I think, first of all, one thing that struck me when I arrived, I think it was yesterday at the cocktail, is that we're talking about development, we're talking about developing countries, we're talking about delivery, etc. But I don't really see many people from the developing countries that we're talking about that are here. And so, as a result, it's a little bit difficult for us to have their side of the story and the experience that they can share. And for example, I know only on an anecdotal manner, that a country like Rwanda has put ICT development as its absolute priority in its development strategy. In fact, they consider in Rwanda that this is the #1 way of developing their country. They consider that without ICT development, they're not getting anywhere. And so they put all their energy, focus, funding, I mean, everything you can imagine in that. And I think that's the kind of case study that we probably should look at one way or another.
Is anybody else doing work in Rwanda?
Sorry.
Anybody in the room doing work in Rwanda?